fix the problem we already fixed once, but this 4850 about 2 weeks ago, the discharge line coming off the pump, going back to the hydraulics, I put a new line in it, and I had to really mess with it, bend it. I mean, I had a hell of a time. It was about a 1/4 inch too long. The valve that it goes into on the back, I had to take it loose and pry on it and tweak on it to get it to fit. Then I had to get underneath it and bend it and tweak on it to get it from rubbing on everything. Well, he said it started leaking oil again. So I come out here yesterday, and there's a big, like a, you guys know what a box tifter plate is? It goes on a like a Cummins engine or something, you know, that goes across the bottom. This has kind of the same thing that goes across the bottom frame flange. And Deere put some spacer, well, not really spacers. They got some little plates that have threads in them and that the bolts go up through. And those little plates with the threads rubbed a hole in it. And it's really hard to see. Anyway, told the owner, I said, well, I guess I'll come out and raise the hole up in it, and I got to figure out what I'm going to do. Either I'm going to have to wrap some hose around it or get some of that hydraulic hose wrap to put on the tube to keep it from rubbing, or grind the spacer down or don't rub. I don't know. You know, and the owner thought the same thing that I did. Well, why didn't Deere bend the tube that they sold us to where it doesn't rub on everything? It should fit to where it doesn't rub. I said, well, you would think a hard line would be made to where it doesn't rub on stuff, but obviously that isn't the case. So regardless, we have to make it right. We have to fix it. So here we are. I got my little Lulu with me. She's helping me out today. We've been going like crazy trying to get that fuel truck done. I spent about 3 hours wiring the stop engine lamp, the check engine lamp, and the wait to start lamp. I think I got like 5 codes left. We've got a grid heater relay coming out of the wrecking yard. That's one of the codes. We got a throttle pedal assembly coming out of the wrecking yard. That'll get rid of 2 more codes. The only code that I'm going to have trouble with is the 285 code, the timeout, the CAN bus timeout. What it's doing, it's looking for the CECU and the VECU controller, which is a chassis control unit and a vehicle control unit, which obviously on a 1992 Peterbilt there was no such thing. The only thing we have now is an ECM. So the only way that I know of to get rid of that code is I'm going to have to get somebody with CalTerm, and they're going to have to get in there and make the ECM ignore it, or they're going to have to change the source address so it's not there anymore. So anyway, there is the 4850, and I'm just following my tracks where I came in yesterday. Yeah, so we got to pull this tube out, but I'm going to get a little bit closer than I did yesterday. Let's get over here. Well, this is some pretty heavy ground out here. You know what I forgot to bring with me was a piece of cardboard. I forgot to bring some cardboard with me, Lulu. Hold on, Wiener Dog. Don't you just jump out of there. That's too far down for you. Hold on, I gotta... Hold on, I gotta text this guy. What are you growling at? That's some pretty rough ground out here, Lulu. gotta do something, kick a bunch of dirt on it or something so we don't have to lay in the oil, I guess, because I had my head up my ass and forgot a piece of plywood or cardboard. And so this is some heavy old clay ground. It's like laying on, I was laying on boulders, trying to see if there's anything that, you know, I could take that, that'd be better than laying on that dirt. I could take that bulkhead that just slides out of there and throw it down on the ground. It'd be better than laying on the dirt. That's what I'll do. Alright, so if you're lucky, pull this plate off. I'll tell you, right now, this is the one right here that rubbed a hole in it. I'm going to have to get that plate out of there before I do that. Somebody's either lost the plates that go in there at one time or another. I had this tractor. I rebuilt the transmission, the power shift in this thing. I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago maybe. Hang on, this guy is the biggest complaining truck driver I ever seen. He's a good guy. Known the guy for years, but just one of them guys that every little bitty thing that just isn't perfect on the truck is just, golly, like an old lady, you know? And then you get over there and it's something somebody could have fixed with a crescent wrench. You're going, you called me over here for that? Get on the sucker. I thought maybe there was a washer there, but I don't think there is. Gotta keep track of my sockets out here. It's pretty easy to lose them out here in the dirt. At least it ain't sand. I mean, that's one thing about this heavier ground. You can find your tool a little easier. Actually got that one to hold by my fingers. Sometimes, if you're lucky, this plate's pretty heavy. You can drop them on this driveline shield and just kind of balance it and shove them up between the pan in there and kind of wedge it in there. And that way you don't have to lift that heavy son of a gun back up there. That's, the older I get, the less of that shit I really like doing. Yeah, some people, which is fine, you know, it's kind of worked out pretty good for me. You know, I got a lot of subscribers, but most of the subscribers don't, it's like people just subscribe and then they don't watch the videos. You know, you get 90-something thousand subscribers, but you got your loyal viewers that, you know, 30,000 of the 90,000 that watch it every time. I don't know what the other 60,000, why subscribe if you're not going to watch it. But a lot of them, it's kind of a good thing that I've done. Some of my rants, it kind of weeded a bunch of the assholes out, and they left, and They don't watch it anymore, which is a good thing. Let's see here. Engine 3/16. Which I used this. I got a battery. I got a battery on the charger. Blue, you okay in there, babe? Yeah, she's in there laying down on her chair. Anyway. Yeah, the stuff that's going on in our present day world, not just here in America, everywhere, absolute lunacy. And the people that can't see what's going on, they ain't never gonna get it. They're never gonna get it. History just keeps on repeating itself, you know what? But, you know, there was a saying that old Mao Zedong, he was the communist leader of China for, I don't know, 40 years or whatever. He had a saying, and one of his famous sayings was, keep them stupid. That means get into the education system. Don't teach them, brainwash them. And that's where our public education system has completely went. It's completely infested with these communists. And that's what they've done. That's what they've done. And you've just got generations of dumbed down idiots that never were taught anything. And the biggest problem is they never were taught it at home. If they were taught at home correctly, they could have went to school and still been taught that way, but known that the instructor was full of shit. But see, they weren't taught. Well, I'll see what happened now. It wasn't the plate that was rubbing on it. See, because I remember sticking the plates up in there, and I remember bending the tube with a bar because it was rubbing on one of the plates with the threads in it. Well, I fixed that problem, but the bolts were too damn long, and they come in there and hit the tube. So that's what happened there. So we're going to braze this up. Just got a little bit of oil contamination in it. Well, that ain't too bad. Right there. That's pretty clean. It's a new tube at least. Well, let me get my brazing tip and all that out. Well, we're just batting 1,000 today. I cannot find my brazing tip. I haven't brazed anything in so long that I probably brazed something last time in the shop and laid it down in there and then bring it back to the service truck. And so I've done this before. It's not very good, but it'll work. Use the torch head, just turn it down real low. What's going on here? Let's burn some of the oil that's in there out. Looks pretty good. see there, a lot of guys will say that, oh, you want to use steel. This tube's thin enough that I don't want to use a steel brazing rod, that I used bronze, which will be just fine. I have now, if it was a 6,000 psi 2500, it'll be just fine. And I'm thinking what I ought to do is go ahead and just one little divot. This one didn't go in near as far, but I better just go ahead and do something right now. Let's just put a little bit on that. I like to get it hot so that it'll stick to it real good. This is the brazing rod that's already got the flux on it. I have really good luck with it. I'm sure the big time welders out there, they'll all tell me how screwed up I am, but it's all right. Okay, and usually this bronze, boy, it sure feels real good. And you know, usually don't have leaks and porosity like you do on it. Just feels so good when you fills the holes in so good. But you got to be careful. You know, if you on really a small tube, you'll collapse the tube and fill it full of metal to where you can't get any flow through it. So you got to be careful with that. All right, let's put it back in there and we'll fire it up, which is a fun process, to say the least. Well, let's see here. Maybe I'll put it over here. Yeah, I knew I'd grab it from the hot end every time. I wonder if I'd dump a little water on that. Just getting nervous about shoving a hot tube up there with everything with oil all around it, and all my luck will catch a tractor on fire. And you know, and that's the thing, you guys see a small portion of what I do every day. I just video the things I can. I mean, there's tons of these little jobs like this all the time that I'm doing that I don't ever video, thinking, oh, who wants to see that shit? Okay, there's a certain way that you got to do this, and that's it. Preferably without getting a tube full of dirt and shit. Alright, let's get a can pretty clean and spray the end out. This due diligence, try to keep shit out of there. I did pretty good. We don't really got too much in there. What the hell, huh? How the hell did that happen? I had it up in there and some bitch fell out of there. Maybe like that, maybe? Oh, strike it ass tape. It fell. Just fell out of there, but it won't go in. Okay. Spray that end off. Take that valve clear out of there. Let's see here. I wonder if there's something I could set this out. I'll put this valve back in here, basically just this line. This is what they call an attenuator. And hook the attenuator line back up, and then this line go into the control valve. And then before I put that plate on there, we're gonna make sure it don't leak. We'll start it. All right, let's go fire it up. See if our braze job turned out okay. Ugh. The good old days where you just had a mechanical linkage that held the tilt wheel up, no dead gun gas cylinder that's always bleeding off and falling in your lap. This plate, well, let me just make sure and get a little, make sure that tube is tight on this end. The end that you can't get to, make sure she's nice and tight. You don't want to have to pull that plate. All right, she's tight. Okay, let's put this back on. Carefully slide her down the driveline tube, shield, whatever you want to call it, preferably without not dropping it on your ball sack. Yeah, baby. Get a nut started on there so she doesn't fall off. And then I got to figure out what I'm going to do to keep that from rubbing. Cut the bolts off shorter or something. I don't know if somebody put different bolts in it at one time or another and they're too long. I'm not sure what the hell. Because I can't imagine Deere manufacturing. You know, I bet the tube just wasn't bent right. And the angle of the dangle is wrong and it's got it down too far, because those plates and bolts, those shoulder bolts are factory bolts. They still got the green paint on them. The bend just wasn't right in that new tube is what the hell the deal is. Well, we have to shorten the bolts up a little bit, we will, but anyhow, this one's fixed. I'm just going to either shorten the bolts up or move. You know what I'm going to do. See, somebody had lost the plates for the other side. I'm just going to take the bolts, and I think I can, that's what I'll do. I'll just put the bolts in, those 1/2-inch bolts that are there. Then I can cut those off to whatever length I need. As long as I get full thread on the nuts, that's all I care about. But anyhow, this one's done. Upwards and onwards.